Afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Career Catalyst podcast, part of the IT Career Academy media platform. I'm your host, Rory Devine. With me is Derek Lazzaro. Hi, Derek. How you doing?
Doing well. Hi, Rory.
We have a great guest today, our first guest. As you know, the Career Catalyst, the audience for us is to kind of educate and help inform the emerging workforce and the technology side for all of the graduating students across the country in today's market. I thought there was no better way to set the table stakes for this event than our guest today, Davida Johnson. She is the Executive Director of the Office of Advanced Research Computing. She is working with computer science students every day, and if no one better to kind of take the temperature and the status quo than Davida. So Davida, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
You are our first guest. So again, you are here to set the stage.
Lovely.
So you should feel very excited about that. And thank you again for your time.
Great. I have no one to compare myself to, so.
So in previous conversations, Derek and I have kind of explained how we got in these chairs and what we do for a living. So if you wanted to kind of tell us, exactly what your title means, what you do, and then, how your career kind of got started in technology.
Sure. Happy to do that. So I'll first start with what I'm doing today, what my title is, and what work I do at UCLA. So as Executive Director for the Office of Advanced Research Computing, I oversee a department that provides technology and data science and also AI competency for researchers. And so we have, for instance, expertise around high performance computing, around, again, as I mentioned, data science, statistical consulting. We have a number of people with advanced degrees within our department. And so they help to build that competency for researchers who may be domain experts, but may not have that technology background to be able to produce the type of statistical results that they're looking for. So we partner with them on that sort of thing, and on their research grants as well. So that primarily is what we do. And I also am an instructor for a class that is called Engineering 170. And it is a project-based tech bootcamp for social impact. That's the name. And the goal of it is to work with students who are interested in using technology to cause social change. And so the class, at the end of the class, students have a prototype of where they've solved a problem, a societal problem, that they're able to use as a portfolio for future jobs, but also we take them through the process of identifying the right technology for the right societal need, and also how to build something that actually works. I mean, it is a prototype, so, but it takes them through so many different types of lessons learned, from project management to collaboration to going deeper into how AI or data science can be applied. So that's where I am today. But how I got here was I have a degree from MIT in, it's a joint degree in Humanities and in computer science and engineering. And from there, my first job was actually in academia. I worked with physicists on solving a military problem. And from there, though, I wanted to get more hands-on experience, work experience. And so I actually moved from there to Accenture, where I was a consultant, technology consultant for a number of years. From there, I moved to Warner Brothers, where I spent 8 years in working in technology, and I oversaw one of our technology teams that was delivering home entertainment to our clients. And from there, that's where I came to UCLA. That was just where I am now. I was interested in something that really focused on societal impact. And And so this is why I wanted to move to UCLA, and I've been there for a number of years now, and I'm really happy about my choice there. So that is my background.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you do a wonderful job. Those students are very impressive. For instance, last year, the Engineering 170 class, the societal impact problem was how to solve the LA wildfire issue with technology. And I sat in on some of the presentations and was really blown away. So you're doing a great job.
Thank you. Yes.
So that is a very impressive resume. It definitely has. Everyone gets a little bit of entertainment in LA, right? I didn't see that coming in one of those, but that's really great. And then we're on the board together at Innovate UCLA. Derek's also a member, right, Derek?
Yeah, yeah, that's been a great experience.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
so I've had the pleasure of being able to work with you the last 2 years running an internship program out of UCLA. But I think one of the reasons we wanted to have you on is to kind of talk about the state of the state with the students that you're working with. Entry level jobs since 2019 are down 50% in the tech space. So, what are you seeing from the students? I get a chance to work with them a little bit, but not nearly the capacity that you do. So, is there hope? Is there concern? What are you seeing from the students en masse that you work with?
Yeah, so I have a very unique position where I can see where they are, and actually how things have changed over the last few years. So when I first started at UCLA, uh, their students were jumping into internships like crazy. I mean, they had internships within their fall in the fall, and so that has changed dramatically, where students are going through to the spring quarter and not finding those internship opportunities, and so there is a little bit of a bit of a fear in the students that they will not land a job, and that the work that they've done in school has not amounted to what they had hoped. And so I think though that we can close the gap there. It is a different society now with AI and the need to really be agile in terms of the technology that you can bring to the table. And so, but I think that there's a lot of hope because the students are learning fast. I mean, they're able to adapt to this technology really quickly. But the gap is how to get them into a company and be ready to work. So ready to work also means things like running projects or being able to collaborate with others and all those other skill sets that they may not have at the moment. And so the landscape is they're students are they're pushing themselves, and they're even self-organizing with clubs and being able to just kind of self-train. But I think it's important to have a relationship with the industry, a much stronger relationship with the industry, so that we can really bridge that gap between where they are and where the potential for them being in these organizations.
And Davida, a couple of follow-up questions on that. Would you say that the change in terms of the availability of the internships and that path, is that really just in the last year or two as AI has really ramped up, or is that something you were starting to see even a few years prior?
I think I think COVID had a lot to do with it. So prior to COVID, the internships were much more available. Um, and then COVID happened. And then after that, internships started to become available too. But AI has really changed the game. And so what I'm seeing and what the students are seeing also is that they have to have a lot of experience to get in a company as entry level.
Hmm.
But also too, the internships are seem to be drying up too. So they're not able to get into a company just even as an intern to even start the process of a career, potential.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like there used to be a pipeline of sort of the internship. You gain some experience through that, and then you get your first real entry level position. It sounds like that pipeline is where it's kind of maybe a little broken at this point?
Yes, I do.
Mhm.
It definitely is broken, and the idea of like an apprenticeship type program would be excellent. I think the one thing too is that a lot of companies are now feeling the pressure of delivering,
Mm.
and so they don't really have time, or they're not dedicating that time to these early career students or hires to train them in more professional skills, and so we're seeing that as a gap that has to be filled. To ensure that the companies have the resources that they need and the students or the people that they need and the skill sets, but also to recognizing that students may not come in. They're not going to come in with 2, 3 years of experience, and so we have to just kind of close that gap somehow.
Hmm. Is there any particular skill set or sort of self branding that sort of makes a difference? I mean, if there's sort of fewer of these internship spots available, does having AI coding skills or any particular type of coursework or you know, project work, does that sort of make a difference, or is this kind of across the board, regardless of where a student is trying to specialize, et cetera?
Oh, it totally makes a difference. It definitely makes a difference. So while we are seeing some of the internships dry up, we're also seeing the complete opposite, which is students with those skills are being hired into companies because they're looking for that skill set, and they have, for example, computer science students who have gone the extra mile to get those AI skills. They're being swept up immediately into the NVIDIAs of the world and some of the other companies that are AI specific. And so, um, so it's a really we're seeing the opposite. I mean, we're seeing extremes, I would say.
Hmm. Kind of a
And
bimodal spread,
that's
basically.
right. Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we had talked off camera about this, but this is why I'm so passionate about the internship program that we run. Is there's a chasm between the existing workforce trying to learn about AI prompt engineering, and they're trying to educate themselves internally. When I think a really valuable solution would be having a recent graduate or an intern working side by side with you, kind of just observing from like a one-on-one. Oh, have you tried using this to kind of optimize this or make this more efficient?
I think that is excellent.
Yeah.
I the the benefit to that is that they will see the real world experience. They will see what actually happens in the real world, and that is extremely beneficial to a student learning and growing. So, absolutely.
Yeah, I think I've learned more being on site with some of my clients recently, sitting in the pit with some of the uh, younger graduates who are recently in, or the engineers, and just kind of hearing how they talk. And kind of one of them laughed at me the other day and said, "Oh, you're still using someone for your taxes? Like I have Claude do that for me now." And I just like, well, I didn't know I was so far behind, but thanks for the tip. I'm going to look into that. So that's again, like I think that's where the groundswell. If we're really looking for a sea change and upskilling the workforce, the existing workforce, I think that's really one of the best options. So yeah, that's something that we hopefully can push. So you did mention kind of the bifurcation earlier, and I just wanted to ask, from the I've read and seen that within computer science and engineering, data majors are up 900% in the last 4 years, and cybersecurity majors or disciplines within cybersecurity and infosec are up 19%. Are you seeing that anecdotally at UCLA, or have you seen any other majors pop up?
Well, definitely data. So, a lot of the disciplines that are not even in computer science. So, for example, cognitive science. There are many students who have either a data science minor, or a computer science or technology specialization. So we're for sure seeing that a lot of the students are having dual degrees or for sure minors in these areas, and I find that more common than just one degree. So that has been pretty significant change that I've seen probably the last 5, 6, 7 years. But they're coming with a multitude of skills in their degree program and what they've chosen. Yeah.
Are there any AI specific or focused majors that have popped up recently that maybe we haven't heard about or that are new in the last 2 years?
No. So not that I'm aware of, unless it's popped up in the last, quarter. There isn't a AI major at UCLA. It is embedded in computer science, but other universities are starting to do AI majors. I've seen it in master's degree programs where there are, and these are very, very technical programs that have artificial intelligence, but it's being embedded into the work that they do, and the university is still trying to figuring out how does AI play a role in education as well, and is it something that is, at what level do they learn it? Do they learn it from the deep learning perspective or versus the prompt engineering perspective, and all of those are they are all important, but it is how that translates into them getting a job and bringing that skill set. We really need to know more about what the industry is looking for to be able to go back and say this is what the curriculum should be.
Davida, you mentioned that your own background is kind of a split between the humanities and more, technology and science.
Right.
I'm curious, as we sort of think more broadly about the AI, enabled future and the world that we're entering, what role do you see for the humanities, and do you think that there is kind of a career path, whether that's governance or other areas where the humanities, still has a role or still enriches the other skill sets?
Oh, most definitely, because the domain knowledge is still important. So, whether it's political science, or art, or film and television, the importance of domain knowledge is critical because that's where that's still prevalent in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I don't think it's enough. So if you are in the humanities, I think it is absolutely necessary to get a specialization in computer science or data science as you're moving out into matriculating and then moving out into the world, because it's technology driven, it's data driven, and so the skill sets have to be there. It really is not enough to have just the humanities part.
And are you seeing that pretty significantly throughout the student population, that even the sort of humanities focused students are in fact taking a minor or specialization in more of a computer science or AI
Yes,
field?
absolutely. So I'm seeing it with professors too. So instead of humanities, it's the digital humanities, and so there has to be an aspect of it being data driven and solution oriented, and so that for sure is happening. The challenge that the university is facing or has faced, and they're resolving that in areas like the digital humanities, is embedding the digital part or the computer science part into those fields, because you don't naturally people who are humanities oriented may not naturally be science oriented, and so you have to have they're more focused on the domain and the technology becomes an enabler for the domain, and so that is how it's taught in more in the humanities, and that's how they are attempting to teach those humanities majors. It's very different in the STEM fields because it's really about the technology, and so you have some hardcore computer science skills majors, and actually they could benefit from the domain knowledge too. So there's there's a balance that happens, but for sure the humanities majors most definitely need those technical skills.
Yeah, I think my aha moment was last year with that, where we were at an event together last summer with a bunch of CIOs from the Innovate group, and we had the theater group from UCLA present, which at the time I was kind of, okay, group of technologists, we have some theater group in here, and they came up and presented and talked about how they had this fully immersive and integrated version of a play. And then about 15 minutes in, they started going through their AI architecture workflow on how all of this is possible. And I saw all the CIOs writing stuff down, and I was like, oh, like the technology is influencing, and these kids are very disciplined in the technology sector. And that's where I realized like AI is just kind of a part of every major now, regardless. So I thought
Absolutely.
that was,
Yeah.
Davida, do you think that, we've heard a lot about vibe coding and some of the tool sets and capabilities that AI enables for less, tech first kind of people, or, hardcore computer science people. Are you seeing that with, some of the students and others that you work with, where, people that are not necessarily trained computer scientists are learning how to code or how to use technology more because of AI and vibe coding and things along those lines?
So I see that they understand the need to integrate that into their degree program. We are seeing, but how they learn AI is very different. It's broad, and so being a consumer, so I am seeing students being consumers of AI and not necessarily builders, except if you're in a STEM field. And so I think that the so they understand, they get it. Like AI, I have to have AI on my resume, and whether it's being a part of an AI club or something that shows that I am literate with AI, but that may not translate into what an organization or company needs from AI, their skill set. And so I think there's a gap there, except for the ones, like I mentioned, who are computer science and they're actually learning, they want to learn this. They are, it's ingrained in their curriculum. But what I do get concerned though, but by seeing just the consumer side of AI without understanding how to enable what you're doing with AI. So that's what I'm seeing. Just yeah, yeah.
I've recently explored more of the Microsoft stack myself, and there's sort of a few different tiers within the Microsoft world of Copilot. There's kind of the consumer grade Copilot experience, but then they have something called Copilot Studio, where it's sort of low code, no code ability to sort of refine what Copilot can do for an organization. And then they have something called Foundry, which is for computer scientists and folks like that to really build tools almost from scratch, with some enablement from Microsoft. So do you think that there's a role for maybe that middle tier and building, skills and capabilities there, or do you really have to sort of be in that, Foundry tier, computer science tier, where you're truly building stuff that's novel? I'm kind of curious, like what you think is the true story there.
Yeah, so I definitely think there's room for that middle tier. It's back to the humanities example. If you have someone who has an expertise in a domain and they don't have to be developers or software developers, but they can use that middle tier to help better explain or better say visualize or do some analysis or even build models because they have the domain knowledge. And so
Mhm.
if they're able to use that domain knowledge to and get that enablement through these AI tools, that's a win, and um, but if they're relying too much on the tools and they don't have the domain knowledge that will be able to validate their results, or how well the model is working, then that's a problem. So there has to be some domain knowledge there when
Mhm.
you're using these tools. But for sure, they're time savers. They are. It doesn't require you to be as technical, but you still have to have some foundation of knowledge around a subject to
Mhm.
to be able to be for your that skill set to be valuable to someone.
Great.
Yeah.
Mm. All right, so then I know we're coming up on time, so you've been so gracious with it. So tell a $1 million question would be, students today, what would you recommend for the freshmen, sophomore, juniors who are trying to prepare themselves for the job market? What would be your biggest recommendation or advice to them?
I would say get a mentor from the industry and someone who can is able to reflect back to you things that you can learn, and that is so I think it would be very valuable to a up and coming graduate or student, and it saves them time from learning from their own mistakes, and it also connects them early. The earlier they can get a mentor, the better. But it really does help put things in perspective and bridge the gap between where they are today with where they want to be. You know.
That's a great answer. I think a through line that you'll see in future podcasts is definitely going to be that mentors really help people's careers take off as a catalyst.
Yeah.
So if people want to get in touch with you, where can they reach you if they want to talk about the internship program or want to talk to you about OIRC or anything in between?
Yes, I mean they can certainly email me. I my email address is public information. So if they were to go to the UCLA or Google my name, they can certainly email me. I'm happy to talk with anybody about our students, or the internship program, or Innovate at UCLA, or how they can get active or involved in what we're doing at the university. Yeah.
Amazing. Again, and if you want to follow up on this, you can see this at itcareeracademy.com. You can follow up on our LinkedIn site, Instagram. Derek, any final thoughts?
No, this was a great conversation, and Davida, it's really was excellent to have your perspective. I mean, you're working with the next generation and the folks that are right there trying to skill up and trying to get into that career pipeline. So great to hear from you, hear your
Thank you.
perspectives.
All
I'm
right.
happy to share.